It makes me wonder if this is why recommendations from full-time beauty influencers don't work for people. One of the biggest things that surprised me during my transition to working a 9-to-5 corporate job after being a full-time beauty influencer for 9 years was how my makeup routine changed. The products that I found myself gravitating toward using every single day were different than the ones that I think I thought I would have relied on when I was just at home, making beauty content. Because the truth is, my makeup performs a lot differently when A, I'm in an environment where I cannot control the climate. It's very dry in my office. B, when I'm literally just talking more and expressing more because I'm socializing with other people versus working from home and not really talking to anyone. And C, when I'm not looking in a mirror very often, so I'm not doing just like micro touch-ups that I would do if I was at home where I sit next to a magnifying mirror and I kind of constantly glance at myself. So products that I thought I knew what to expect in terms of their performance were really throwing me curveballs in this new environment. So now that I've been adjusting to this new lifestyle for nearly 3 months, I want to show you what my actual makeup routine looks like when I'm getting ready to leave the house every day, the products that I'm reaching for nearly every day. Some of them are new favorites, but some of them are old favorites from years past that have made their way back into my routine full circle. So let's dive in because I gotta go to work. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. I've been creating beauty content online since 2012, but I'm so glad you found me today. Let's get started. Okay, today is a very real work day for me. It is Wednesday, November 5th, 7:28 a.m. I don't know if you can see that. As far as primer goes, I've been alternating between these two from Essence. So on lighter days when I'm looking for more glow and smoothing, I go for their Bouncy Plump Smoothing Primer. But when I need a little extra performance and wear time out of my makeup, I use their Jelly Grip Primer. In case you missed my last video, I tested 4 different drugstore grip primers, and this one came out on top. Not only was it the cheapest at $5.99, both of these are $5.99, but this outperformed the other 3 by miles, in my opinion. What I love about this grip primer is that it is so thin. It really does feel more like a gel moisturizer. And compared to other grip primers that claim to be hydrating, this one actually feels like it's sinking into the skin just a bit. So I feel like I get more of that hydrating effect. I can actually feel it. So when I'm gonna have a long day, maybe I'm on shoots all day, or maybe I'm even capturing an event at night, this is definitely the primer I've been grabbing. I also feel like out of all of the grip primers that I've tried from the drugstore, this one doesn't get me as shiny, both freshly applied and throughout the day. Now, foundation has definitely been the hardest step in my makeup routine for me to nail down and figure out what works for me in this new environment, because formulas that I thought worked really well for me, particularly the Milani Blur Out Tint Stick, that's what I was using like the first month that I was working, but it just performed so much differently on me when I was talking and expressing more throughout the day versus being at home and not really talking to anyone. But I was trying these different foundation formulas that I thought worked well for me, but just in this new routine, they weren't quite cutting it, particularly around my mouth and laugh lines. So after a lot of testing and a lot of days where I just did not end up liking my makeup, I actually went back to an old favorite, the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation. This is a buildable foundation, so I can keep it light when I want to. I can build it up heavier if I want to, if I have more to cover like I do right now. This is a smoothing, long-lasting formula, but what really kind of led me to choosing this as my daily foundation again was because it was staying out of my laugh lines way better than any other foundation I was testing at work. Now, I'm using the shade 430, which is called Ivory Buff. And here's my one complaint about this foundation, and funny enough, this has been my complaint about this foundation since it came out. Their shades kind of lean yellow when they dry down, and I'm very surprised that in the year 2025, that's still a problem that I'm having with this foundation line, and just something that they really haven't addressed, especially because like in their True Match foundation line from L'Oreal, there is a shade, I think it's N3, that matches me nearly perfectly. And I just wish that foundation lines within the same brand had the same shades. Like, ugh, it's annoying. So anyway, this does lean a little bit yellow on me, but I don't think it's super, super noticeable once it's blended out. I do have a different shade coming to me since I'm almost done with this bottle. And I chose something that overtly looks a little bit pink online, hoping that it'll dry down a little bit more neutral. But see, I can kind of just layer it up a little bit over some of these darker blemishes. And often I don't really feel the need to add concealer. Also, I figured out that I think I'm reacting to a new hair product that I'm trying that I actually really liked in my hair, but I think it got on my pillow. And then considering I'm only breaking out on this side of my face, I'm laying on this side of my face on my pillow and I broke out like crazy. But the other thing with this foundation is that like no matter what's going on with my skin, whether it's a breakout or a dry patch or oiliness, like it just kind of stays looking even and balanced. So I just know that I can rely on it no matter what crazy stuff is happening on my face. Now, I did want to give a shout out to the Versed Serum Concealer because if I am just working really quickly, maybe I'm running late, or maybe I just want to wear a lighter face in general when I'm not breaking out, this is what I use all over my face. This is also pretty buildable. You tap out at about medium coverage, but it looks so natural on the skin and it actually lasts really well, even in my expression lines. I would say I probably use this all over the face about once a week, or I will use it in conjunction with my foundation to add just a tiny, tiny bit more coverage where I need it. But like I said, the L'Oreal foundation does a pretty darn good job at getting everything. But because this is a nice, flexible, and hydrating formula, it's sometimes nice to hit those areas with this. And then I can keep my foundation layer as a whole lighter. Also, the shade 7N in this is mwah, a beautiful shade match for me. As far as my brows, I've gone back to using another old favorite, but this is from a more mid-range brand. This is the Benefit Precisely My Brow Pencil. Now, I've tried drugstore brow pencils that have come close to duping this, but in my humble opinion, it has never been truly duped in checking every single box. But the L'Oreal Brow Stylist Definer is probably the one that comes closest in my opinion. But here's the thing. This is always included in the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale or the Sephora sale, and that's when I stock up because then it ends up being about the same price as the NYX pencil and the L'Oreal pencil. I think the last Ulta sale, it was $13, $13.50 or something like that, and that is drugstore priced at this point. So got my backups and this is actually a brand new one that I opened yesterday because the previous one ran out. I just feel like this is the right amount of creamy that it glides onto the skin, but it still looks light. Like it's not like one of those super, super creamy brow pencils that it's hard to apply lightly or get those thinner hair-like strokes. This still ends up looking very natural and it blends really, really well. And not to mention, it is super long lasting. It is a waterproof formula and I don't find it to fade or smudge. I am the person who, let's be honest, I'm touching my face without realizing it throughout the day, which also contributes to this. But my brows are definitely one of those areas where I'll kind of like, you know, swipe at them or itch them or something like that. And if a brow product is not like super smudge proof or as smudge proof as this one, turns into a real weird situation fast. And that's one of the main like factors in all of the products that I'm now using on a daily basis before a workday. You know, when I was at home doing beauty content full time, I was constantly looking in the mirror because I was, you know, testing a makeup item and I wanted to see how it was working throughout the day. But I'm not really looking in the mirror as much anymore. It's like maybe when I go to the bathroom, you know, but it's not like a magnifying mirror like I have at home. So I really need to use products that I don't need to babysit because I'm just not checking in, I'm not touching up. Priming my eyes with the Alter Ego eyeshadow base, you can use my code Miranda10 for 10% off at Alter Ego. As far as my eyeshadow, I know some of y'all are gonna think this is boring, but I have really been leaning into just a very simple halo eye look with 2 eyeshadow crayons, kind of on the neutral mauve side. So I start with the ColourPop Shadow Sticks in Bear With Me. This is one of their matte shadow sticks, and this is something I put on all over the lid, and then I just blend upwards lightly. Now, sometimes if I find myself, you know, having finished my morning workout early and maybe breakfast didn't take too long, maybe I'll create a little bit more of a soft glam eye with more shades, maybe a little bit more definition, but this has really been my daily go-to so that I don't have to think about my routine too hard in the morning. And then I just find myself playing with makeup in a more creative way, more so on the weekends or for events now, but we'll see. I mean, I'm still only like 3 months into this new routine and job. And even in those 3 months, my makeup routine has changed based on what I find is working or not working. And this has just been what I find works the best so that I like the way that my eyes look. They're defined, but I'm not taking too much time deciding or executing the eye look in the morning. So that is Bare With Me, blended all over the lid. You can see it's a neutral mauve, a little bit of a dusty mauve. And then in the middle of my eye, I'll add a little bit of champagne shimmer. So this is the Maybelline Color Tattoo Sticks in I Am Inspired. This is kind of like a rosy champagne sparkle. So this I will just add to the middle and then kind of tap at the edges. Very subtle, sparkly eye. Makes me feel like myself in the fact that I have, you know, a hint of a glam moment. Now for the first month that I was working my new job, I actually completely skipped eyeliner just because I was too nervous in the morning. My hands were not steady enough. Now I've gotten back to adding it into my routine. It just makes me feel like myself. I'm using the Physicians Formula Super Slim Liner. This is the one that definitely came out on top in my drugstore liquid liner comparison video. So I try to keep it very small. Something else that I'm kind of noticing is that, again, as I move further into my 30s, my brows are drooping. I'm getting a little bit more of a hooded effect with my eyes, and that's something that happens to all the women in my family. So I've had to kind of adjust how long my wings are and the angle of my wings so that they don't end up getting buried under my lid. Curling my lashes. Now mascara has also been another one that was tricky for me to figure out what I wanted my go-to to be. And something I've really noticed is that so many new mascara launches, I like how they make my lashes look in terms of length and volume and separation, but all of the new viral mascara formulas weigh my lashes down. And I have very straight lashes. So typically I have to really over curl them, crimp them basically straight up in order to overcompensate for these heavier formulas. And even still, I was just noticing that by the end of the day or even midday, my lashes were just sticking straight out. And the only mascara that I have found that can actually keep my lashes curled up throughout an entire workday is the CoverGirl Lash Blast Cleantopia mascara in the waterproof version. So not only does this lock my curl in place, but it also doesn't flake. And that is a huge pet peeve of mine when it comes to mascara. So those two factors alone really made this my daily mascara. Now I also have two cons. So the pros and cons actually kind of even themselves out. One, I never get through my routine without getting mascara on my lid with this brush. I think because it's so large, but also the mascara formula is so thin that it almost flings off of the brush onto my lid. So that's really something I'm dealing with every single morning. The other thing is I need to be careful about how much I build this up, because if it makes contact with my brow bone, it will transfer. Because since this is a waterproof formula, oil breaks it down because something's got to remove it, right? And because I have really oily lids, that's enough to start taking the mascara off the tips of my lashes. Oh, there we go. There it is on the lid. So when that happens, I do let the mascara dry completely before I try to remove it, so I will move on. For my contour, I'm using the Sachu Contour Stain. This is a liquid contour. I really like this formula because it is so thin and blendable and it lasts. I'm using the shade Giving Iconic number 2. Now I did test this in a video a couple months back where I actually was testing it throughout a work week, but it was before I announced to y'all that I had a job. And I really did like how it performed on the skin, but I believe it's $18, and I don't know if I would necessarily pay full price for it. This is definitely a product that I would snatch up during a sale, only because it reminds me a lot of the Moira liquid contour, which is around $5 when you use my affiliate code. They both have very, very thin blendable formulas that last all day. There's absolutely nothing I don't like about this contour. I just think that there's something similar out there for a lot less. But it's open in my makeup drawers and I'm trying to, be practical about what I use on the daily. So that's why this is what I'm using, because I don't have that Moira one. I need to buy another one. But I just think that this actually blends out to look natural. It doesn't lean orange. It's actually giving contour and not just warmth. Like, hello, cheekbone definition, didn't see you there. Oh, you know what? I just remembered that I did not put on brow gel. I'm like looking at my brows like something looks off. Yeah, girl, you didn't put on brow gel. Okay, so for my brow gel, I am using a drugstore product. This is the L'Oreal Brow Lamination Gel. I do really like the Benefit Clear Brow Gel. It's called Brow Setter, but that one does not go on sale as often as the Benefit pencil. This one's a bit thicker than the Benefit gel. I just have to be careful not to over apply so that way I don't get a cast. Now I'll be honest, I've actually been using the Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Liquid Blush the most. This is again a product that I've had open for so long, but I've been stingy about using it and I'm like, let me just use it up. That's what I bought it for, right? So this is the shade Encourage, which is my favorite in the line. It's kind of a neutral pink. However, I did find a dupe of this in my makeup drawers, and that's from Pretty Smart. This is a brand you can find at Walmart. It's from the same founder as the Balm Cosmetics. This is their liquid blush in Inspire. And now that I think about it, like, was it meant to be a dupe because of like, you know, the kind of inspiring names? But I did a YouTube short applying these side by side so you can see the difference. This is what, like $18? How much is this? This is $25. This is $9. And you know what? Even though I'm going to work, I am going to show them to you side by side, and I will just wear two different blushes today. So here is the Rare Beauty blush. It goes on looking pretty cool, but once you blend it out, you start getting more of a natural hue, or a neutral hue rather. See, like it doesn't look as purple once you blend it out. Viral for a reason. It's such a beautiful formula. I do use the, I think, dewy version. I know they have matte versions as well, but I love the glow this gives my skin. I've just kind of been rocking with that and not adding any highlight on top. Beautiful, easy to blend, nice amount of pigmentation. Now let me show you the Pretty Smart version. Does it not look exactly the same? Like first applied, you know, it's kind of pulling a little purple. I'm gonna flip my sponge over so that I'm not mixing the formulas. Now the only thing is, I feel like this one's a tiny less pigmented where I might have to add a little bit more, but it's blending out to look very similar shade-wise and finish-wise. Still getting that really pretty dewy finish. Matches my eyes really well. I'm just trying not to bring it like super over my acne. $25 side, $9 side. Like if I'm gonna be super nitpicky, I think the Rare Beauty side is slightly glowier. Let me see, what if I add just a tiny bit more? Did that do it? But shade-wise and in terms of like how easy this blends into the skin, the overall finish, this is so similar. Now I will take my highlight. This is the ColourPop Light Sticks and Glazy. Y'all know this has been my go-to and it is still my go-to. This I will take and put under my brow a bit since I didn't put any shadow there. Just to add a tiny bit more definition to the eyes, and then sometimes I'll even put it in the inner corner just to brighten things up a bit. At this point, before I move on to my lips, I'll set my T-zone with powder. I've been using the About Face Curtain Call powder in Veil, and I am trying to keep this pretty light. I'm not baking as much as I used to, but I will pat it in between my brows and on my forehead where I have those fine lines, under my eyes, and on the side of my nose where I get super shiny. Thin layer in my laugh lines. Under my nose, because I blow my nose, and then around my chin, particularly around some of these blemishes where I really want to make sure the coverage. Was that English? Around my chin, on the blemishes where I want to make sure the coverage lasts. I'm gonna take a second to flake off the mascara that I got on my lid earlier. Now, as far as my lips, sometimes I switch it up, and especially going into fall lip shades are like my favorite. I love a good berry, I love a good red, but there really is one product that 4 out of 5 days, this is what I'm using. And that is the Milani Color Fetish Hydrating Lip Stain, particularly in the shade Rose Rising. Now, I know in my lip stain video that I did last year, at the end, I ranked the e.l.f. lip stain higher than this one for several reasons, one being the price. But honestly, in everyday practice, this definitely won out because it keeps my lips so much more comfortable just by itself. With the e.l.f. lip stain, I really do need to add a separate lip balm, whereas this is just a really nice all-in-one, one swipe and you're done type of product for me. This is just another one of those like mind changes or realizations now that I've been wearing makeup and testing makeup in a different way than I used to. But this is definitely the most moisturizing lip stain that I've tried. And especially like being in an environment where I'm not controlling the climate, being in a routine where I'm not checking my makeup throughout the day, even sometimes after lunch. This is something that I can rely on to just look decent all day, even if I don't have a chance to touch it up. Though typically I'll add a little bit sometime in the day, mostly for the moisture boost. So what I do is I apply kind of a thinner layer. I let it sit for a second, and I also mush my lips together just to kind of get that stain going more quickly. And then I'll use my finger to rub it in. I feel like this helps it set quicker. It makes it less mushy and transfer prone, and it becomes transfer proof quicker when I'm kind of rubbing it in, as well as like taking off some of the excess. And I just love this shade. All right, sealing it all in with the Milani Make It Last setting spray. And I do puff out my cheeks now so it goes over my laugh lines. So this is my actual everyday makeup routine now that I'm working a 9-to-5 corporate job. And I thought it'd be fun to bring you along for a little montage sequence to show you how this lasts throughout the day. So come to work with me. And I'm back at home. It is just about to turn 7 p.m. and as soon as I got home, I had dinner with my husband. And as you can tell from my little Workday montage, today's day was definitely more desk bound. I wasn't running around the property or doing any social media shoots today, but I did have a lot of meetings, both online and in person, a lot of face-to-face interaction. Also, today's climate control of the office was kind of all over the place. I feel like they don't know whether or not they need to turn on the heat yet because it is November, but our days are like starting in the 50s, but quickly go into like 80, 83 degrees when afternoon hits. So there was a point in the day where I actually felt like I was sweating. But with all that said, I'm about 12 hours into wearing this everyday Workday makeup look, and I still think my face looks great. I feel like I could wear this for another few hours if I had like a nighttime event, and I wouldn't be worried about my makeup, and particularly the foundation. I mean, it really just drives home how good this foundation is, but everything is still looking smooth and covered and not creasing. Let me get you close. Literally zero bunching in my laugh lines. Zero. Nothing to report. And same story on my forehead, not my 11s and not the horizontal ones that I get from, you know, raising my brows and expressing. My contour and blush still look even and blended and smooth. The only little bit of wear that I can see that like signals that I've been wearing this makeup for a while is the slight bit of eyeshadow creasing in the very, very innermost corner of my lid. My lids have just been getting much oilier as I get older, so I think I need to go back to a primer that's a bit more matte. My lashes are still lifted, no flaking, no smudging. And obviously the lip stain has faded and I did just have dinner, but there's still a little bit of color, a little flush to the lips where they don't look bare. So all this right here is exactly why these products have become my go-tos for Workday makeup, why I'm grabbing them every single day, because they are so reliable. I can do my makeup in the morning and I really don't have to worry about it throughout the day. So now that I'm living this 9-to-5 corporate life, I would love your recommendations on your most trusted and reliable makeup products that you grab every single morning. Tell me what they are in the comments. If you made it to the end of the video, first of all, thank you so much. Leave a comment with the little fall leaf emoji. That'll be the end of the video club, and if you know, you'll know. YouTube thinks you'll love watching this video next. I will see you over there. Bye!